Tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Oh my god, you guys. Thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV's Daredevil After Show. We're talking about episode 112, The Ones We Leave Behind. But we haven't left you guys behind. We're here to talk about Daredevil. Oh, I'm your host, Zach Wilson. So much to talk about tonight, guys. You make sure you're following us on YouTube, youtube.com/AfterBuzzTV, and all the other shows, all the other places you can find us, iTunes, SoundCloud, all the rest. Let's introduce the rest of my panel. To my left.
Sorry, I'm still thinking about what just happened. That's absolutely terrible. I am Soapbox Mark Donica. You can find me on Twitter there. I'm going to be checking the hashtag ABTV Daredevil every now and again to see, for those of you who are watching live, what you thought about episode 12, because now we finally hit it.
Jesse Klein.
Yeah, I'm Jesse Klein. You can find me at JessKlein1 on Twitter. I really liked this episode. It was it had some awesomeness going on in there. Let's sink our teeth.
I mean, the violence is like, it feels appropriate.
Yeah, there was a very violent. I'm upset about it. I'm very upset about it.
Well, we're gonna talk about it, but first I want to make sure that we introduce Jamie.
Hi guys. I'm Jamie. You can follow me on Instagram or Twitter at Jamie S. Elias. So I'm pumped to talk about this show right now.
Yeah, and you guys can tweet at me throughout the show, throughout the week at that Zach Wilson. Let's get started.
Holy smokes!
Okay.
We have to. Yeah, we do. It's our jobs.
Everybody breathe. Everybody. Well,
All right.
except for Ben, he can't.
You know
breathe.
what?
Why would you do that?
Why would you start it off with
you? So coyly.
I love that. That was good.
It wasn't intentional. It just happened.
We were sandwiched between.
As opposed to the other act, which was definitely intentional.
But guys, I mean, well, let's just. It's on our minds. Let's just talk about it right off the top. We lost.
You can't.
Ben Urich.
You can't kill Ben Urich. Like you
They
can't.
just did.
I know, but they can't. Like,
Are we gonna start with it? We're gonna start there.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
gonna start there. I mean,
you can't kill Ben. Like you can't. He's so important to the Daredevil story. It's like the next Daredevil, like taking place in Palm Springs. Like
inappropriate.
Or
Stephen
not.
Lemieux,
Hilarious.
shame on you. It's like taking him out of Hell's Kitchen. Like it doesn't make sense. Like you can't kill Ben. He's Ben. There's already one dead Uncle Ben in the Marvel universe. You can't have another one.
I mean, that's the thing is, like, I think actually for Daredevil, as much as I hate to lose Ben,
Yeah.
it fits as a story point. It's a great motivator, and much like I'm going to use a comparison to the in the Spider-Man movies. Mm-hmm. Spider-Man guards his identity from everyone for decades in the books.
Sure.
But in like the original trilogy, he tells, like, Mary Jane finds out in number 2. Mm. It's because when you're dealing with the
Also
cinematic
a train
universe,
full of people.
Yeah, well,
A train full of people see who he is.
Anyway, the point.
Okay.
My point is, like, in the cinematic universe, those things that might happen over 10 years
Are happening
of
very
comics, you have to
quickly.
move faster.
Yes.
Because remember, at the time, they didn't think that they were going to get a season 2 of Daredevil. That
Yeah.
wasn't even in the ether.
Yeah.
No one thought they were going to do that. They were like, no, season 2 of Daredevil is the Defenders.
Yeah.
Well, I also think Ben dying plays a really huge role with Karen too. I think that like there's going to be some serious character depth with her
Yeah.
for the next season because in result of
Oh,
it.
there's definitely like character implications and everything.
It gives her agency.
It's I think what Jesse's more like worried about, complaining about, is like the more bigger universe.
Like he was going to be like a Claire,
issues.
where he could go into each different show.
Yeah, well, Ben
Yeah.
Urich is so central to Peter Parker's story.
Exactly, like-
that it feels wrong to
Well,
lose him.
Who's to say that Netflix doesn't start a series when Ben's still alive, and then they can make some like old school Daredevil cameos? You know what I mean? Like, the universe doesn't have to all.
It doesn't have to be linear.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
That's true.
They
But
could bring him back for like a couple seasons for Spider-Man, and then explain in Spider-Man when he dies or if he dies.
But I agree with you about how like him dying does give Karen agency. Like now she can have her own blog, and like because here's the thing, Karen's talking about how like if she comes out and reports about like what's been going on with Fisk, like they'll dig into her past and they'll bring stuff up and they won't trust her. And like here's the thing that's great, Karen, about the internet is you can be anonymous. Like you can just start a blog and you can just call it like the Hell's Kitchen Report or whatever you want to.
But as somebody who has started a blog before,
Yeah.
it's real hard to get anybody to look at it.
Fair, but that's the same thing I said when she didn't want to publish her own. I was like, you make a new email with a
Yeah.
false name and have nothing linking back to you.
She'd have to just do like internet cafes. Do they even have internet cafes anymore?
Yeah,
Or like
Starbucks.
like a public library, like so it wouldn't
Oh,
address
definitely.
back to her computer. Like
They
that's
do.
Oh yeah.
because just if Fisk is so, and I'm not saying Fisk is going to be in the next season. Who knows who is? But I feel like
He would be able to
Netflix,
track
yeah,
it.
they'll be able to
Reddit
track
can
it.
do that. Reddit can find out what IP address that came from.
This
Be like,
is
oh, it's
true.
this girl.
This is true.
Reddit
so Reddit
is the
can
true
do it.
villain of the Marvel universe.
No, but also with Karen, I feel like the entire season she's been like, I like Karen's character. There's a lot of reasons why I like her, but there are a lot of reasons why I think Netflix is kind of making us like fight with Karen a little bit. But I think that the whole season it's been like, well, I just want this to stop, and I'm not going to stop till I find the truth. And like she's kind of played a victim a little bit, but in this situation, like she runs around saying like I don't want to be responsible for anybody's death, right? And in a lot of the situations, it wasn't directly her fault. It was more of Fisk that did, and Fisk did kill Ben, but it was because Karen played on his emotions because
she
she took
forced
him
him to go.
she took him to talk to a woman with Alzheimer's that he had no clue he was going to talk to.
Yeah.
He was under no, I don't know, that like this is Karen's fault in my opinion.
It is 100% her fault. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, can you really blame her, though?
I mean,
Yeah.
here's the thing. She is the person who tricked Ben to go over. Like, it wasn't his choice to meet with the mom. Like, she took his choice away from it. Yes, Ben was prying into Fisk. Ben was looking into Fisk's his background and stuff like that, but he didn't have the choice to meet with the mom.
But it was Ben who decided to then follow up with the story.
Yeah, but
he
the
could've-
story didn't matter.
But Ben is so
Like, that's-
against too. Like we learned from the very first episode that Ben is against. He wants to go after the bad guy and just the bad guy. Like in this situation, if Ben knew that he was going to talk to Wilson Fisk's mother with Alzheimer's, I truly don't think he would go if he knew everything.
Yeah. And like that's the thing is the story doesn't matter. What matters is Wesley's phone. The last phone call that he had was to his mother's treatment facility, and that Fisk traced it back and found out that Ben visited them. And like so Fisk knows that Ben was the person who visited with his mom. So like the story doesn't matter. I don't think Fisk cared what Ben was writing or anything like that at that final moment. I think all he cared about was the fact that he met with his mom, and that was a step way too far.
Well, he mentioned when he confronted Ben in his house that he
Yeah.
respected his work, but also this show did so much to make you go, oh, they're safe. Oh, crap. Oh, they're safe.
Yeah.
Oh, crap. And despite all of the table turning, it was more of even when he said, I'm not here to threaten you. Like,
Yeah.
even when he said that, I was like, oh, good.
And he's like, I'm here to
I'm
kill you.
Ah!
Oh,
Like,
okay.
Yeah, no, as soon as he said, I'm not here to threaten you, I'm like, yeah, he's here to
he's-
murder you.
And just in cold blood, bare hands. Somebody in the chat said that the audio enhanced version said, and then the life, the life was sucked out of him as he was
Sucked?
being choked. Well, not sucked out of him, but he was bereft of his
Of life.
essence, essentially. and that's like
That's heavy, man.
yeah, that's pretty heavy because like somebody
Way to
listening to
describe
that,
death. Yeah.
somebody listening to that just like, wow, that dude got messed up.
Yep.
Yeah.
100.
I actually love the after he killed Ben. I've noticed a lot in the show. They're switching from like close-ups to like voyeuristic angles, which are really interesting. And like, so he chokes Ben, and then almost immediately after, the camera zooms out like to behind a door, kind of like creeping around a door, and you can like see Fisk kind of like looming over Ben and like deciding to leave. And like I really like what the cinematography is doing, like playing with this kind of feeling like we're just getting to be privy of this story. Like they're allowing us to see this story that we're not supposed to see. I think that was a really interesting kind of move that they were doing.
Yeah, it got a little, I agree with that, but it got a little like Law and Order SVU for me. Yeah, like just that one, like just when I saw him come out of the shadows, I'm like I kind of giggled. I was like, really? That's how they're gonna, that's how he shows up. He's like, where have you been? Turns on the lights. You
Finally,
know? But it was.
Your dinner is cold.
But the cinematography, you're
He's
right,
sitting
is
there
beautiful.
stroking a cat.
Yeah, like Dr. Evil. Like that's like in my head. I'm like,
I brought a veggie platter.
It's now lukewarm because you were here late.
That's what it was. The life force left him. That was from Leslie Loves Travel. The life
Yeah.
force
Yeah.
left him.
It was rough to watch. It hurt. But let's go back to the top of this episode. We had to talk about that because
yeah,
Yeah.
elephant in the room.
oof. But at the top, we just left Karen, who had just taken a life on her own.
Yeah.
Because where we last left her was when she shot Wesley 6 times in the chest.
That ain't no fitty.
No.
She
9
just she just capped Wesley.
Yeah.
No, there was no side stance. It was just straight on.
Wesley got capped.
Yeah.
Wesley, you've been capped.
And so we came back on her, like throwing the gun into the river.
Yeah, and
She goes back to her apartment. She's like, for me, the big emotional point in that is during the shower, which
Yeah.
just is like it's getting. She's trying to get herself clean, which
Yeah.
is. To me, there's the two meanings there. Like she's trying to like wash the blood off her hands, and she's trying, but she's also.
I mean, it's a trope,
yeah.
but it's a trope for a reason.
Yeah.
Old Lady
It's-
Macbeth.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I just mean in terms of her story, though. She's been trying to get clean in the
Like she started
more,
over.
Yeah.
She
in
started
this-
over in Hell's Kitchen, and now she's back.
Yeah, and the more like what we know about, we don't really know anything about this version of Karen's backstory yet, but the idea that she was into drugs at some point, or
Yeah.
she
Was that in this episode or last episode where they talked about how he thought smoking a doobie was a huge deal, and she was like,
That was-
"That's not a hard drug."
That was the last-
Doggy."
That was this episode.
That was this one.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
Yeah,
He's like, I think, and she just goes, I think Denver would disagree.
Yeah. Also, we saw Foggy in college. He smoked more than one doobs.
His name is Foggy.
Yeah.
Oh, Zach.
Yeah.
You're hilarious.
You made it to episode 12 without that.
Oh my gosh, awesome. Capped in
They made it
America.
to
Yeah,
episode
it's not
12
weird.
without
Yeah.
making stoner jokes. I mean,
Really saw Stoner
name
Foggy
is
once, and that was in a
Dog.
big episode.
Well, to kind of talk about this, I've been noticing as we've been watching. I am curious to rewatch a show. There's a very interesting relationship this show has with alcohol. That I've been watching quite a bit, and I'd be interested to see if the writer might be like a recovering alcoholic or something like that. Because it seems like every time there's a big emotional shift, it usually surrounds alcohol. Like
That's true.
almost every single time. Like even when Ben gets killed, the first thing he does is pour himself a glass of scotch. Like
yeah,
before
well, he gets fired from his job.
Yeah,
His
he
wife
goes
is
home.
like, go make a blog.
Yeah,
And-
he pours himself a nice
little
glass
bit more
of
than
scotch,
that, but-
and like and we see Karen fishing out a bottle of brown liquid.
Yeah, some of the biggest scenes
And-
happened in that bar.
Yeah, and that bar is like a huge kind of thing You know, the whole thing about Matt and his father, the first time he drank was with his father, so his hands wouldn't shake.
Yeah, she runs to liquor.
Yeah.
Almost, it felt like alcoholism, but
Yeah.
the character has never been presented that
No,
way.
but it's probably
This might
the
help.
easiest thing she can run back to. Like that's what I thought when I saw her run straight to a bottle. Was like that's probably she's tried. Like it's like I don't know, like smoking. Instead of smoking a cigarette, you're gonna drink a lot of coffee.
Whiskey
So
will never
instead
leave
of
me.
if she had like a crazy drug pass, like that's just what I was thinking when I was watching.
Yeah.
Was like instead of wanting to do heroin, I'm going to take a shot.
It might also be
Yeah.
something that people associate. If they don't, even if people don't have that in their past, it might be something where they go, "This is what people do, right?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel
totally.
better. Oh, I feel terrible again.
Or-
So it just
Yeah.
continues.
Or even
100%.
just in the sense that it's medicine. Like
Yeah.
that's the very very alcoholic view on it, but it's like I can't stop thinking about the terrible thing I just did. This is a thing that makes people forget.
Which I mean, alcohol's a depressant. It will make you feel worse if you feel bad.
Yeah,
Like-
but she runs to it, and the way she attacks that bottle,
Yeah,
it's
she
like
holds
it's
it-
like somebody who's in a desert rushing for a bottle of water.
Yeah.
She just pours it back and like almost chokes on it
Yeah.
because like she's trying to just guzzle it.
The bottle was full at night, and when she woke up, it was totally empty.
I think just like an early prediction,
Stephen Strange.
based on the stuff that we've seen in like the last 2 episodes, I really think that the beginning of season 2 is going to be, and I keep saying this every freaking time we do this, but I think we're going to see Karen. I think because we see her drinking so much, and because like I'm not going to talk about the next episode, but because we see something in the next episode where she talks about drinking and like Matt says he sees something in her or whatever, I just think that this is the beginning of the end for Karen, kind of, and that she's going to like need somebody to pull her out of whatever she's falling into because of what she did to Wesley,
Yeah.
possibly.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm gonna be curious to rewatch the show and see like how they're using alcohol as a storytelling device.
Yeah, it really is like a through line.
Well, somebody in chat, Citra, I can't even read it.
Yeah.
Citronel's pumpkin. They put all of the Iron Man demon in a bottle stuff here because they didn't want to go dark in the movies.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't really say they went that
No, I
far
don't
with
think
it.
so
It's
either.
just it's been a clear device.
Yeah,
but
and
it's a
then
fun thing
someone
to
else
bring up.
said the bottle had all the bad things from the movie in it.
But I mean that. How scary was that dream?
Oh, a
Moment.
terrifying.
Potential eye injury.
You counted it as a half because it was a dream?
It's
Yeah.
a half.
All right.
It's a half.
Well, the
Need to get
thing
out.
like the thing about killing people is it gets easier.
It gets
Do it.
easier the more you do it.
Uh,
But like,
And then no one can sleep. Everyone's back at the office. No one can
Yeah,
sleep.
apparently, like everybody never sleeps. It's
Yeah.
like 4 in the morning, and they're all chilling at Nelson and Murdoch.
And we see the office across the street. I caught a little Easter egg there. Atlas Investments is.
No, we pointed that out earlier.
What, did we?
Yeah, they showed it earlier. But
Oh,
this
yeah.
time it was just like,
Yeah.
if you haven't seen it yet,
Yeah.
it's right here.
Because before Marvel was Marvel, it was Atlas, and also Agents of Atlas is just a goofy, fun comic book that you should pick up. It's like all of the original heroes, but brought into modern day, so they just don't know what's going on. It's fantastic.
what are these phones you're all holding?
That's Grandpa, Grandpa superhero.
Oh, Grandpa. Oh,
Yeah.
Captain Grandpa.
But yeah, everyone's back at the office. No one's sleeping.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about one thing that Dreamfisk said.
Yeah.
Because he talked about, like, at one point he goes, talking about, like, the killing of a person. It's like, you've snuffed out all their hopes and their dreams. I don't have the exact quote.
and their
in front of
life
me,
and
but
everything,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
of their memories and their
everything
family.
that they worked towards,
Yeah.
you've ended.
and you have to reflect upon.
And that line really, I thought was a beautifully written line because it's not coming from Fisk. That's Karen talking. And like how much, especially played against the end of this episode where we see somebody who has very clear hopes and dreams and that we've followed and we were hoping for him. It's such a distinction. These two people took a life.
Yeah.
At the end of each of these 2 episodes, and Karen felt the real weight of it, the real consequences of it. Everything that is involved with taking a person's life. It's not just pulling a trigger and then a problem goes away. There's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
And the thing that bothered me about what Fisk did to Ben is once he was dead, he stood up, had a bit of a smile on his face, and just kind of left. And I was like, "You son of a! How dare you!"
Even worse, he stepped on the frame picture of Ben and his wife, and like jerk. Like it was like, this is what you were, and I'm stepping on it. Like,
Vincent D'Onofrio was doing he did this entire series an amazing job of kind of like having temper tantrums that were like grown up. Like seriously, I was afraid when he started getting. Yeah. He did an amazing job acting this part out.
Monster.
But yeah, so
we're just destroyed.
You're a monster.
I know.
But so they do go back to the office, and Karen and Foggy have a chat again, playing at these themes where Foggy's just like, you can't just run around killing people and call yourself a human being.
I know, and she's like,
it's like, I'm gonna go cry in the corner now.
Yeah, I would like to read what I wrote about Foggy, but it's not for family audiences.
Maybe just say F.
Yeah, F and Foggy is what I wrote in my notes in all caps.
I mean, he didn't know what he was doing.
Foggy.
But yeah, and it's kind of like a re-motivating moment. Like everyone's like, even though Matt and Foggy are still at odds, like it's still like the keep digging kind of thing. Like we gotta keep going after it. Like everyone's up.
They're sort of circling each other at this point.
Yeah. And then it goes to Fisk, right?
Well, there's Fisk, but let's finish talking about Foggy, because Foggy's getting into some business.
Oh yeah,
with a lady friend.
Ooh, some business.
Yeah, well,
like her.
actual business and the business.
Yeah, she hates the bar.
Business.
Yeah. She hates... Oh, yeah. Well, of course.
My business is pleasure. Yeah, she hates the bar. She tried to get a vodka martini and just got a cup of vodka.
Now that's a drink. Now that is a real drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very dry.
The pickle garnish.
But, yeah, so, I mean, I thought that was just a nice... Like, in what was ultimately a very dark episode.
Yeah.
I thought that bring her in was a nice little, like...
Comic relief.
Yeah, comic relief, where she's just like, oh, that's like, he's like, this is about work. I have all this evidence about Fisk. Oh, that's disappointing. I thought this was a booty call.
And you were pretty good last night.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, apparently Foggy's real good.
I just real casually. It was good. Yeah, it's a shame.
You're
really
bad, Karen. You're bad, Karen.
No, not Karen.
Yeah, Marcy.
That's
Marcy.
what I'm saying.
Oh,
You're bad,
that's
Karen.
What I mean.
Oh yeah, Karen, you missed out.
Oh, speaking of that, I really like that her character hasn't slept with Matt or Foggy the entire. I think that's like a really cool, like from a woman's perspective. As I'm watching this, like you go into it kind of thinking like, it's gonna be a love triangle. You know what I mean? And I really appreciate the way Netflix is kind of playing it off and keeping her character.
Yeah.
Just,
Still one more episode though, you guys.
I know.
I can keep shipping Daredevil.
All right.
Or Daredevil.
I like Daredevil, but that's just
Daredevil?
me.
Yeah, Foggy Bear and Daredevil. So Daredevil. Oh, yeah, that's right. You weren't here for that one.
No, now I remember.
Okay.
Now that you... Weird.
No, that's the Tumblr ship.
It's true.
But anyway, so Fisk is also... He's doing some...
He's in a bad spot at the beginning of this episode.
Yeah.
He's at Karen's bedside.
Vanessa.
Or Vanessa.
Talking about so many people.
We're all over the place.
Is that Mrs.
I don't
Senorita
see
Cardenas'
any
bedside?
difference between any humans. He's at Vanessa's bedside, and we kind of have this awesome, like, hero parallel moment where he's like, I put you in danger because of who I am. And he feels so guilty that because of his position, he's put the woman he loves, the greatest love story in the Marvel universe, and he's put the woman that he loves in danger because of who he was and about how he has to protect her. And it's like this again, like this it's this amazing parallel where Fisk and Daredevil are so close, just like there's just like a different point of view, and they're the same person. And I really like how they keep setting that up, where Fisk is basically having a hero origin story, except he's murdering people and forcing like Darwinism in Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, Vanessa's my favorite female character besides Gao.
Yeah.
She is.
Wow.
No one's better
No,
than
she's
Gal.
great.
She's a great character.
What she said though about and how she's come to like the power that Fisk has given her. Find out who did this and make them understand they can never take you away from me.
Yeah.
Putting her in the position of power.
So cool.
She's a badass.
Total badass.
And she's manipulative. And
Yeah.
Fisk doesn't see it because he's so in love with her. But she's like, knows what she's doing. She
don't
knows
know
what
what
she's
she
saying.
doing.
You know what I mean? Like,
No, totally.
she's like a young gal.
Yeah, young gal.
I'm just saying, I don't know if she can donkey kick somebody, but if she could.
Well, that's the other thing is like if it was a hero origin story, when Fisk leaves, he's like, I'm gonna find out who did this, and I'm gonna make them pay. And she's like, yeah, you do that. And it's like, if this was a hero origin story, they would be like, no,
stay.
like
Stay
no,
with me.
I don't want there to be any more suffering because of me. Don't make them pay.
She's
Find
like,
justice.
don't get it twisted.
Find justice, not vengeance. But Vanessa's like, yeah, make them pay.
Get 'em.
Like, go ahead.
They wrote all the hero dialogue, but made the wrong person say it.
Exactly.
So you're like, I'm invested, but I hate him. What the hell's going on?
But that's what's great. That
Yeah.
like that dynamic, that confusion that you feel like where you're like, you really love that woman, but damn, you are a bad man.
it's like you're wiping your tear away with your middle finger.
He didn't even say make them pay. He said make them suffer, which
Yeah.
is
Suffer.
which is even worse. Like, it's fantastic. I love that relationship so much.
She's pretty cool.
Someone
She's
in
a
the chat,
boss lady.
She's a boss. I
someone in the
like her.
chat said Vanessa's superpower is enabling.
She was an art dealer, so that
Yeah.
could totally. That was her origin story.
Holy
Yeah.
Who
smokes.
was that? Because you are amazing.
That was, oh man, CIT Catonius
The pumpkin.
The pumpkin.
The pumpkin.
The
That's
pumpkin.
The
easier.
notorious pumpkin.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks,
pumpkin.
pumpkin.
Yeah, pumpkin.
Thank you.
Good
Pretty
work.
cool.
Oh man.
Can we go to the Wesley scene? Can we talk about that for a
yeah,
second?
well,
That's
he
like
gets-
in my notes a million times
he gets
because
a
that's
phone
the
call.
saddest one.
Yeah. Fisk gets a phone call and is called away from Vanessa.
Yeah.
And he's just still there. He's just like, yo, what up? I'm dead.
This
That was
is
sad. And Leland was being a total D-bag, as he usually is. But my favorite line was, he was my friend! Like,
Yeah.
super just like...
yeah.
Another thing where we totally sympathize with the dude, despite
Yeah.
that Wesley was also kind of a D-bag.
Yeah.
His best friend died.
And he's so lonely as a character. Like his
Yeah.
character has two people that he trusts, right? So he trusts Wesley and he trusts. Why can't I just want to say Karen, but it's Vanessa.
Yeah.
He trusts Wesley and he trusts
You two
Vanessa.
on the
And
side
if
of the
I
table.
know,
Yeah.
good.
This is the
goodness
dumb
gracious.
side of the
At
table.
the struggle.
sorry,
I'm rubbing
Jamie.
off. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I'm struggling today. But so sad. That whole scene. That's my favorite romance in the entire
You know,
season.
the kid.
I'm not kidding. I was like trying not
Yeah.
to cry because freaking Wesley died. I hate Wesley, and I was so sad.
Well, Leland had that quote, or no, who had the quote that the wind blows the hardest?
Leland.
It was the closer you get to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's been hanging out with Gal. That's
That's a
thing to
gal.
say.
Totally.
And he didn't even say, she said some crap from a fortune cookie. And then here he goes
Yeah.
saying one.
trying to comfort.
Maybe there
Fiscally.
are fortunes in the heroin packets.
Oh, maybe.
Whisk.
That would get me to start doing hard drugs.
They just included a fortune
Yeah,
with some
that's all it
lucky
takes.
lottery numbers.
I'm so close to it. It's just I need a fortune in my hard drugs.
Don't do drugs, kids.
Don't do it unless they're fortunes.
Don't do drugs, do fortune cookies.
Yeah.
Almost just as bad.
Yeah. But in that
Views
moment,
expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or
Then
principals.
in that case, do drugs.
no, don't do drugs, kids.
Always drugs.
Stay clean.
Stay sober.
Be like Matt Murdock. Just drink heavily.
And beat the hell out of people at night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of beating the hell out of people, Fisk in that
Fisk.
moment.
Yeah, Francis, our boy Frank.
Yeah. He's like, you let him go. And Fisk's, yeah.
Oh, you were waiting for that. I saw you change the soundboard.
Holy smokes. Francis did that. He let him go.
Welcome to the Daredevil Morning Zoo.
Sorry, audio listeners, that was pretty loud.
Anyway.
The only type of listening
but yeah,
you can
so-
do is audio.
Francis, the only one of the goons that we got a name
Yeah.
for, gets beaten almost to death.
Was it you that thinks Francis is going to be Frank?
That was
You.
me.
Okay.
And I was like, that's it. He's going to be beaten down. He's going to come back. He's going to try to kill him with all of the weapons that he can find. And then he was in like the next scene where he was like, oh, sorry, boss.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah. That was not.
I'm surprised he was like, walking. That's like, he has a massive concussion.
Yeah.
At least. That's, yeah.
Yeah, Fisk's fists are the size of coffee cans. And
Yeah.
he's getting hit in the
And then the weight
head.
of full coffee cans.
This is
Full
a,
of rocks.
This is a man who like just picks people up and throws them like they're sticks.
Yeah.
And like just broke a man's head off.
Yeah.
By slamming it in a car door.
That
He is
Fishy.
not a weak man, and he punched him with all of the anger of losing your best friend.
and
Maybe
love
that
of your
dude's,
life.
maybe that dude just has super dense bones. Maybe that's Francis's
He'll be
superpower. He just
Coming out
has
as
really
Frank.
dense bones.
But it was
Everybody's got superpowers.
it was tough to watch. Any other thoughts on Fisk before we?
I mean, I like seeing him get stripped away from all, like, this entire season. It's been like this build up to like how powerful and like in the shadows he's always been, and like the more exposed he gets and the more like on the edge he feels, like seeing him kind of break down in these violent fits, we realize like he's still that little boy with a hammer, and he's just, everything's a nail to him. And he's just going after, Francis is his like bodyguard, and he just punched him with hand behind the head, and then just punched like that, like full force punched Francis.
And Owlsley's like, "Whoa, dude, whoa."
Yeah.
That's called loyalty.
Loyal
He was
people.
following orders.
Yeah.
crazy. But then he comes back and like you can tell he's gonna be the number one guy.
Yeah.
Frank is.
He's the
Francis.
he's the new Wesley.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I thought the coolest thing was when Fisk says, when Owlsley was talking to him and basically saying like, you just beat the shit out of him. Crap out of him. You really think he's gonna be like, take orders and be loyal to you? And he's like, well, Wesley trusted him, so I do. I was like, aw.
I mean, you got to take
Pour
your
one
lumps.
out for Wesley.
No,
Like, not actually going to.
Not on the table.
well.
Figurative pour one out with the flask,
Wesley, yeah.
figuratively.
The Daredevil
The flask, which we will be giving away by
Product placement.
the way.
Yeah.
Transitional flask.
On the iTunes segment, which will be happening. The actual giveaway will be we will be announcing the winner during
13?
episode 13.
Episode 13.
But I want to take a quick moment, you guys, and ask you for your help. We at AfterBuzz, we put on so many shows a week. I think we're over 100 hours of content a week. That is our average. That's the average, which means there are some weeks where we're doing more than 100 hours a week. And we do that all for you. And we're asking for your guys' help with a survey to help make our shows better, make them the best that they can possibly be. And here's how you can help us out. Because we like hearing from you. Your tweets and your comments are great. We read every one of them. But this survey at podcast1.com, that's podcast, the word one, ONE.com. Your responses are going to help us make this show the very best. And it just takes a couple minutes of your time, maybe about like 3 minutes. That's all it takes to help us do better. That's how we can bring you these shows for free. You can get them on iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, so many places. I did a search one day just to see like how many places I could find like one particular show.
Yeah.
I found like 10 different places
wow.
it was hosted. You can find it
great.
so many places. But this survey at podcast1.com, once again, podcastone.com, is taking that survey there will help us improve a lot.
And if you're watching us live, do it in between the two shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Or if you're listening, just like, you could do it while you're listening to us. It
Yeah.
works too. Multitask, people. If Daredevil could do it, you can do it. But I also want to give
He's
some.
done it.
I also want to give some shout outs to people on iTunes because we do, as we said, we love these comments. We love your tweets. Gibson House says, "Oh no, we gave you a shout out last week, Gibson House. You're great." But
Thank you still.
Thank you so
Jose T90N, amazing. Love the discussions every week. Since I drive a lot because of work, I download the episode and hear them throughout my day. Thanks for great work. Option 0 says the after show without fear. The crew here, including the rotating guests, do a great job with this show. Mark, Zach, and Jesse bring the comic book insight, and they are truly Marvel MVPs of ABTV. Jamie is so
Michael
great
Van
at pointing out how characters are developing throughout the show. Even when I miss the show, I listen to the podcast on the way to work the next morning and go back and watch the YouTube replay later. Because let's be honest, without naming names, the hosts here have the best facial hair and the most beautiful eyes. And then they throw out a drinking game rule, which is how we will be deciding on the next episode who wins that beautiful little flask there. Drinking game, throwing down without fear. Take a shot each time an object or person is thrown. Oh my God, are you trying to kill us?
You have to do episode by episode. 'Cause that's
Yeah.
dangerous.
Double shot when said ricochets before hitting intended target.
Okay, that one's okay. That's only a couple of episodes.
That
where
one, yeah, the ricochet I could deal with.
And is it for each ricochet or for just a ricocheting moment?
I
'Cause
think
that
you-
would be
I think you
no.
waterfall for each ricochet.
Holy smokes.
until it's done.
Bayfan74 says, great listen. Listen to many AfterBuzz shows, and yours is one of the best. Many AfterBuzz shows have hosts that don't really mesh well. We love all our hosts.
We do.
They all are great.
Except for Stephen Lemieux. I did. I got him.
Binge watched the show on the first 2 days and made this podcast even more interactive for me as I comment back as you throw out your theories. You can do, if you're not doing live on all the shows here at AfterBuzz.
Please
do it live
do.
to YouTube. Mike Brown 924 says, love you guys. So even though I've already watched the whole show in 2 days, I love listening to you guys talk and analyze these episodes. Great insight, and I hope you guys will continue to do the other Netflix shows once they air as well.
That's the plan.
Oh, I'm so excited for Jessica Jones. And I could talk about that at length, but there's no time because we still have a bunch more to talk about this episode.
Also, shout out to Ryan Whittleson, who said he did the survey today in the live chat.
Yo,
Let's
it's
go,
just
Ryan
that
Whittleson.
easy.
All right,
Whittleson's a good guy.
let's jump back in and talk
Let's get
about
into the knit grit.
Madame Gao.
Ass. I love her.
Well, leading up to it,
Madame Gao and Owlsley. We got our answer.
we got confirmation.
Gao and Owlsley conspired to kill Vanessa.
Hashtag Gowsley.
Ghostly.
Gross. Especially because one of them.
Lee.
I
I
mean,
like that one the best.
Yeah.
That's good. Loud.
how do you guys feel about this reveal? We sort of were. We were predicting it,
we
but
were pretty in on it. I mean,
It was a non-reveal. They just kind of talked about it
I mean,
as if we already knew.
the biggest thing in the reveal is how Gao is like, I was never in it for the drugs. Like, that was, she was just there. It was a means to an end, but that's not why she was involved in this.
I think Gao, seriously, I think her whole character was to set up Luke Cage. Like, the whole, is that...
No.
Or Iron Fist.
I'm sorry, Iron
Yeah.
Fist. The whole reason why we got Nobu and Gao, I really, really think, like, yeah, they were important parts of this, but they weren't the meat of the story. I think that they were just like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, they're showing
it was so mean. It's so mean.
It was,
'cause
but
that's
like, I don't live in China, I live somewhere farther than that. And like, all the things she was saying, it's just like...
I mean, we were all thinking.
oh my
weren't we?
god!
know.
All right, well let's just break down this whole sequence with Matt
Oh, yeah.
busting into. Like, he tracks them with this awesome, like, parkour chase sequence.
And nobody saw him.
We finally get to see how Daredevil travels around Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah.
Which is like a big deal. Like in the comics, like I still wanted to see him jump off of a building and land on a lamp pole and bust it jumping off of it as it goes like da-da-da-da-da-da. But that's fine.
We'll take this as a close second place.
We'll take his parkour. The first thing I noticed is there just must be so many sticks left around Hell's Kitchen that he's just throwing as he's like climbing up stuff.
No, Jim.
No.
Because he let it go.
He did. I get it.
Maureen, we got another stick here for
Yeah.
some reason. Where'd that nice blind boy go?
I mean, he probably buys them by like the dozen, right?
Yeah,
he just
Like,
goes to the store. Oh, can I get another dozen, please? What happens to him?
We see.
I'm blind.
I'm blind. I don't know where I left it.
I'm blind.
Fair.
We just see him
my
sprint and then just
gosh.
chuck it into the street and then climb up a.
I thought they were gonna go for the mug of the guy who was doing the trash. Would be like, what the hell is this doing here? But they didn't.
No, they
Thankfully.
didn't do it,
Or he looks up like, what?
He's like,
Was that a blind guy?
yeah.
But so he chases him down, and
Because of a song.
yeah, they were blasting classical music
really
very
blasting.
loud.
it was. They were countering Matt's usual theme when he goes on patrol, and Fisk is usually associated with classical music. So when they brought those two together, it made such a suspenseful and impactful mix together that really worked for the scene.
The people on sound kill it.
I hope that's on the soundtrack. I haven't looked in case
kill
it had a bad, like it had a spoiler in it.
No.
So now I can buy it finally.
I know, so good.
I just mean from that were they making it sound like they were blasting it because that's how Matt would hear it?
I think that's what it was.
Okay.
Because there were times where like it would dip, where like if it got like far away or like something happened, like it would dip a little. So I think it was
responding to the shots, because if it was just Matt, it would be just that theme. If it was just the car, it would be just the classical. And when they were both sharing the screen, they would intermingle.
I still don't know how. Like it showed him parkour. I don't know how he gets across streets. Like it didn't show him.
He knows which proper buildings to go across or something.
Yeah, I don't see how he can leap across a street.
He probably has like everything memorized in Hell's Kitchen though. How big is honestly I'm not very how big is Hell's Kitchen? Like if we had can anybody compare it to a city?
Hell's Kitchen is like what 20 square blocks.
Yeah, it's not.
So I mean I feel like if he's lived there his
huge.
whole life and he's blind, he might have to know
for sure.
where everything is and like what buildings to jump on top of and where to cross the street.
I think we're supposed to assume that he is sensing it via sound.
Totally.
Like the idea that he can't it's the world on fire, but like especially because of all the echoing that goes on between those buildings because of how close they are, he would be able to sense the gap and like where there are things in the way.
Yeah.
Well, also I might be a dummy and you guys might have realized this already, but we've been talking about the opening theme and how it's the blood in the streets and like how that's representing all of the crime and everything like that. But I also think it represents how Matt sees the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like this kind of like dipping, like this dripping and like slowly it's all the same color. Like that kind of detail isn't there, but like how he senses the world is kind of like this weird viscous like drip on everything.
Yeah, because it's like as a sound carries, that's how he sees it.
Yeah, and smells it. And feels the vibrations of.
I know this is really off subject, but you just made me think of. Don't you think that with the whole Karen and Wesley thing, he would have smelt like gunpowder on her?
Somebody mentioned that in chat, but I figure she showered so much and was covered with so much booze
before he.
That it's possible that she didn't wash it away, but she covered it up.
But he would definitely be able to tell just from her heartbeat that something happened.
And she did, and she totally deflected the question, but he was like,
she lied in a way that it wasn't obvious. But sorry, that was way off.
But yeah, and I mean also if he can tell like a sandwich that someone had 2 days ago, he might be able to gunpowder or like even Wesley on her.
Ew. Well,
just said ew.
But you're right. He also probably does know the area very well.
Yeah.
And just to clear up, because there's a little bit of confusion, it's not a city. It's not even a borough.
No.
Because Manhattan is the borough.
It's
like a
area.
neighborhood.
Yeah, it's a neighborhood.
Also, I was just trying to compare it to a city here, not saying that was a city.
Yeah.
Like if we had a
Hell's Kitchen is actually very small.
Cool.
Yeah.
So like the size of downtown LA.
No.
Not even that big.
No, maybe
Good to know.
like Hollywood proper.
Cool. Sorry, East Coast people. I'm not very familiar.
That's what I'm not saying. Nothing.
Like Hollywood proper.
Yeah, something. Either way, it's not a huge area,
Cool.
but it is like a very it's a very central area.
Yeah.
All right. Good to know.
So
Right there with you.
anyway, so he gets to this. He eventually let's just get to busting in there.
Yeah. Well, I like how when they like have the secret knock, he's like, what am I not gonna remember this knock? Like hearing things is what I do.
Yeah.
But I also like, despite this amazing physical feat where he was just booking it, he lands and isn't like, like totally hyperventilating.
He had
at
a
least
little bit of.
bit.
He was like he had like a little like he was like. But yeah, he was pretty calm.
He's ninja trained.
Yeah.
Do you know what I always thought it was funny paralleling it to? Do you guys remember that amazing fight scene? I think it was in episode 2 where he was beating everybody up. They kept coming
the
out
hallway.
But he was like, by the end of it, he was just like bent
Totally
over.
beat.
Yeah.
But this one, I think he fought just as many people, and he was like, "It's chill. Let's take on
And he still
everybody
had
else."
scars.
Yeah, he
from
was still like
everything.
internally bleeding, probably.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of crazy. I was like, "You go. You must be."
It hasn't been that long. It wasn't long ago that he had a freaking ninja knife stabbing him as he got dragged by it. Let's not forget that.
And then after that, he got beat up.
yeah.
And jumped out a window and landed in the harbor.
Yeah.
Which is gross.
Yeah, that's just.
It's gross.
Yeah, so we see like him do his like Daredevil thing again, where it's like attack from the shadows.
Yeah.
Like again, like he's not gonna just run in there with people with automatic weapons. He does like the 1-by-1 takedown of everyone. And
All
then
the
he's-
guys with guns, and then he like finds this like
Blind.
room of just blind people sorting drugs, and
Yeah.
it's like
chemically blind. Like their eyes have been like seared
They
out.
have been
with,
blinded.
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think like he can through everything he can sort of sense that.
Oh, yeah.
Just based on like what's happening around him, how they're moving and everything, and for somebody who's blind, that must be the
Yeah.
most disturbing thing in the world.
Well, and he thinks that it's forced on them. Which
Yeah.
we find out Madame Gao says they choose to blind themselves.
Well, that's interesting. Let's talk about like his encounter with Madame Gao, because there's so much in this little like moment.
No. I wanted so much more.
Yeah.
I was like, what? That's all?
We will get more Gal.
I know it
Just
will-
not in Daredevil.
I know, but I wanted it with Daredevil. I want it now.
Well,
Gal
she
is
says
awesome.
that they blind themselves because they know that there's something beyond your world.
Yeah, but for somebody who's never, I don't know anything about the comics, so I'm
Yeah.
like, that's all. Sorry, just spit everywhere. I'm like, that's all you're giving me, really? What? They blind themselves to do something
I mean,
with heroin?
presumably with
she
science.
says that like it's they have faith in something beyond this world.
But what does
Yeah.
that have to do with heroin and money in Hell's Kitchen? Like that, those are the questions that I have because I have no clue. I'm sitting here like, okay,
I think we're not supposed to know. I think
Yes.
I think
I'm pissed that we
Madame
don't
Gao
know.
is supposed to be. Oh my God.
They're
Something-
coming.
Something fell. We talked about Gao and something fell. I think Gao is supposed to be like this mysterious kind of figure, and it's supposed to be
know.
like the setup for the magical world in the Marvel TV universe.
Yeah.
No.
And I think that kind of works. Just knowing from the comics, like I think she's probably talking about Kunlun, but she could be talking about like
Drop the
anything.
K-bomb.
Yeah, it could be talking about anything with like the Eye of Agamotto or like any Sorcerer Supreme stuff. Like there's so much in the magic world in Marvel that
But I
it's
just want to know.
we don't get to
I mean,
know.
she
Read a
says,
comic book.
she- like, first of all, we know that she has some magic stuff going on because she palms Daredevil in the chest
up.
and
He
sends him flying like
flies.
20 feet.
Donkey punched him. I was like, what?
That's just Tai Chi. That's anyone who does Tai Chi.
I was
is
just
able
like
to do
waiting
that.
for her fist to light on fire.
Seriously?
Yeah, me too. Well, actually, I think she might be Crane Mother.
That's the theory I've heard.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little more backstory on her?
She's just another part of the Immortal Weapons. She and the Steel Serpent are very close to each other, and Steel Serpent is the
Dargan.
symbol we see on the heroine. I think she was introduced with like the first reincarnation of the Immortal Weapons, and has kind of been around. Or she could just be a like one of the Steel Serpents, and isn't Davos, who's like the current Steel Serpent in the Immortal Weapons thing. It's a lot of like I could just talk about that for hours.
Yeah.
She could be a very important character or could not be.
Yeah, well, I think Gao is set up, regardless of whether they're going to make her a TV version of a comic character or an
Yeah.
original. She's set up to be very important in this television cinematic universe, especially
Yes.
the Netflix 5-part.
Yes.
I'm wondering where
whatever.
we'll see her next, either in
Jessica Jones.
just
or,
not even like if we'll see her on screen before we see her back on Netflix.
yeah.
I would say probably Iron Fist.
Not
Yeah.
Doctor Strange.
I want like
Depending
an
on
I
That's
what
a
heart
that's a
Gao
goes
big
into.
jump.
Like
But
I
so
heart Gao. I
I mean,
I want that shirt.
the last thing
The two
before we
serpents
hold on, guys, because we're running low on time because of some stuff we'll talk about in a minute. But she says that to Leland that she's going to go home.
Yeah.
In China, it's a considerable distance farther.
I mean,
Kunlun.
Kunlun.
We've already dropped the K-bomb. So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is where the Immortal Weapons live.
yeah.
In the Iron Fist. Just a suggestion: if you like kung fu stories, pick up the Immortal Iron Fist. Like any of them are fantastic. awesome like kung fu action stories. Like they're just tons of fun to read.
As are Heroes for Hire.
And
Those are just
Heroes for Hire is
classic.
goofy and fun.
Yeah. So real quick, guys, before we wrap this up, because coming up right away after this, we're going to do a separate show for episode 13, the
How lucky.
finale.
Yeah.
And before we do that, I want to do a quick... We actually have... Although we've seen it, before we watch the finale, we wrote down some predictions.
Jamie. Yeah, you weren't here. It's okay.
And now,
Yeah, without
your
you.
AfterBuzz
So-
TV predictions.
My piece of paper on the ground. I want to be a little bit less
We...
obvious. Thank you, sir. I love
So
you. I
we
love you.
don't... We say these... Because we've seen the finale at this point. But these were said, and we won't say a word that's not written down.
Yeah.
These were what we wrote down
Scout's
before.
honor.
I wrote down Suit, Fisk rampage, and Fisk will succeed, but his story will get out, like what he's been doing. Nothing a prosecutor can use, but people will see him as the bad guy, whereas Daredevil gets outed as the potential good guy in the press.
Okay. Do you want to go next, or?
I didn't write down any of
Oh,
them.
you didn't write any of them?
No,
Okay.
I thought you were writing down ours.
Oh.
I think the only thing that I really said is I thought that Leland was gonna die. That's the only thing I remember.
To where I said Leland was going to survive.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Episode 12.
I also got
13.
Karen will
13.
talk about what she did to Wesley, and then I also said that there would be one last reference to the spiritual.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for this episode, for episode 112, The Ones We Leave Behind. Stay tuned if you're watching live. Just flip over back to the AfterBuzz TV, youtube.com/AfterBuzz TV to find the next live video. We'll be talking about episode 13, the big finale. So emotional.
Thank God.
But real quick, guys, where can people follow you after the show if they're watching slower?
You can follow me on the Twitter and the Instagram at Jamie S. Elias, JamieSelias.
You can find me at Jess Klein 1. That's JESSKLEIN, the number 1.
You can find me at Soapbox Mark and occasionally at The Gimmick Pod, which is my wrestling podcast. Also, we're giving away the Flask next episode, so if you're watching live, keep watching live. And if you're not, well, you'll find out later than everybody else.
And you guys can follow me on Twitter at ThatZachWilson, ThatZachWilson. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Zach Wilson. Thanks for geeking out with us.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.